Jeffrey, do you want to give a shout out to your coworker that found you on these videos?
Gabe, if you're watching, what's up, man?
No, I thought you were gonna flip him off. I thought you were like, Gabe, if you're watching.
Your phone.
Man, we haven't done one of these in a while. Toy Talkin, just in the middle of our toy hunt. We've been talking all day, but I just decided to hit record. But I did bring a question and a topic. It might not be a long topic, so this might be a short one. I say that, but the way we ramble, who knows? So I've got a question for today's episode of Toy Talkin, and that is the idea of what is and what isn't a Grail piece. Not what are your Grail pieces, but what do people consider a Grail piece in collecting? Because I feel like I hear the term thrown around a lot, and sometimes almost too much. Like, people throw it around a little too willy-nilly for something that you can easily buy for $50 off the internet.
Like girls say best friend and they have 5 of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So, I have my idea of what a Grail piece is, but Jeffrey, since you haven't been hanging out, you haven't been hanging out, you've been busy, you've been working, but since you haven't been here in a while, why don't you go first? What do you think is a Grail piece?
I mean, a Grail piece is something it's individual, obviously, but it's something highly sought after, something not easy to find, not something easy to get. I would say it's usually an older piece, usually also more on the expensive side, otherwise it wouldn't be a Grail.
Right.
A lot of times it's harder to find it, maybe because it's older or because it was limited in quality and quantity. Yeah, people will say Grail piece all the time when it's like a Marvel Legends from 2 years ago. It's like,
that Age of Apocalypse Wolverine is a Grail piece.
Yeah, that's a Grail piece, right? I mean, like a Grail piece would be, like the 1982 straight arm Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander.
Mm-hmm.
It's super hard to find, super rare. One, because it's old. Two, it's hard to find one that doesn't have the emblem not scraped somewhere. But I think you can also have Grail pieces too that don't actually exist yet, into a sense of I've always wanted a 6-inch Death's Head 1. Since the 90s Transformer comics, I always liked that character. They made Death's Head 2 in Marvel Legends, but to me, that's always been one of the ones I've wanted as far as a figure. I've never had made, but always wanted made.
I never thought of having a Grail piece that didn't exist yet. Like, that gets into the territory of
wish list.
Well, not necessarily wish list, but can it exist? Will it exist? I don't know. You're getting a little bit more of theoretical territory there, right?
Existential with my toys.
Yeah.
I have Grail pieces, but then to me, my Grail would be the flag. Be one day owning the flag. One, it's huge. Hard to find a place to put it. It's not cheap. That's really it. It's huge and not cheap. But aside from that, yeah, it's
fair.
Yeah. To me, that is my ultimate Grail piece, to one day own a original USS flag with at least 80% of the stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Richard? What are your ideas on what is and what isn't a Grail piece?
Honestly, the way that I've heard it, I think, is also the way that people collect things. Sometimes it's kind of that throwaway line where it's something, like you said, that you can easily get. It's like something that's just come out in retail. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, this is my Grail piece. I've also heard, as far as, in the vintage collecting, as Jeffrey said about, the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander, or, one of those mass figures that had been vehicle that was only released in Europe, or something like that, in terms of, what is a Grail. For me, really, as far as my definition of a Grail is something that I've just completely written off. Whether it was a matter of availability, or it's something that just on the secondhand market is way out of my budget range, is usually the way I put a Grail, because which I need to stop using because every time I say that, now I'm able to find it and it's in the range that I wanted. But these are things that were like for instance, some Mezcos that I had just written off. And I was like, I'm never getting that because this thing's $300 on eBay. And then somebody winds up selling it to me for retail. And it's like, well, that was a Grail, but now it's not. And in terms of like my collecting. But then there's also, I kind of go along the same lines as what Jeffrey said. Like, there are things like conceptual wise that I would love for to be a figure that just hasn't been made yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which the way things are going, I keep saying that, and I've always wanted Valiant action figures, and now that's the thing.
Now we're getting those.
So,
oh yeah, I forgot that they were making those. You were pretty excited about those.
Oh,
whenever they announced them.
like, and I know exactly who's in the silhouettes. The first ones we're getting are Bloodshot, Ninjak, and Manowar.
XL was the one that I wanted the most.
Like, so, you know, I think just as far as the psychology of it is just the way that you collect, because I guess Grail is just a versatile term for what it means to you.
Right. No, and that's why I posed the question, right? Because a Grail to me is what is the concept of a Grail item to me is different than what Jeffrey said or what you said, right? So, I do think that the term gets thrown around a little too loosely these days, you know, for the reasons that Jeffrey said. But for me at least, I don't think the age of a figure plays into it as much for me, because there are some things within the last few years that have come out that I was just not in a financial standing to get, and I am now even more in a financial standing to not get things like the HasLab Sentinel that I wish I would have backed. That's like my one biggest Marvel Legends regret. My two Marvel Legend regrets is canceling my pre-order for the Hellfire Club box set and not backing the Sentinel. But Sentinel hit during the pandemic, like right before I got laid off, and I couldn't back a $350 figure. It wasn't. But now we go to the toy shows and they're $600, $700. So I didn't have the money for it then when it was half the price. Now I definitely don't have the money for it. So I don't necessarily think that the age of a figure plays into it as much for me, but the elusiveness of something. Because right now, my two, I guess, what I would consider Grail items would be, one, that Sentinel, and the last G1 Titan figure I need for Transformers, which would be the Metroplex. And Metroplex is, you know, upwards of 400 plus these days.
450 now.
So, but I do like, you know, I guess in all, and it's still kind of elusive. Like, they're out there and you can buy them, but I do think, and I'm probably cheating, and it might be a little bit what's the word oxymoronic of me to say, but like I do think that the elusiveness of a figure plays into it being a Grail piece as well. It's like, right, it's called a Grail piece because it's named after the Holy Grail, which is allegedly the cup that Christ drank from during the Last Supper, if you believe that kind of thing. But you know, there are people who are Grail hunters.
Indiana Jones the movie, I saw.
Yeah.
Right, there was a whole documentary made about it, right, starring Harrison Ford. He narrated the entire documentary.
That's why he didn't die in the refrigerator.
Right. So
He chose wisely.
he did.
He did.
And I know for a fact that once that movie hits next year, we're getting 6-inch.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact. Don't quote me.
Hasbro is not going to miss out on that money.
Oh, no, they won't. And I'll throw money for, because I've wanted a good 6-inch scale Indiana Jones figure line for a while. From Holy Grail. I like your style, Jeffrey.
Yeah, you know.
I like the cut of your jib. But I do think like the elusiveness of something plays into the idea of the Grail, just because people hunt for like the quote-unquote Holy Grail, the actual Holy Grail. Like, does it exist? Is it a real cup? Is it a metaphorical cup? People are arguing about it today. But so the idea of the elusiveness of a figure, like you were saying with the USS Flag, like I think that's much more of a Holy Grail than the two things I'm looking for. But as far as like in context to my collection, those are like my two like top of the list figures that I would love to have. But I don't think I have, aside from those, like I don't think there's anything out there that I would consider a Grail item that I'm specifically looking for my collection.
Let me throw this out, because I think that also the way the dynamic of collecting figures has changed also. I think that also has affected the terminology, because there are things like, for instance, someone would say like, getting Silverhawk figures is my Holy Grail. Well, now the vintage figures aren't the only option.
Right now you have Super 7 and Ramen toys.
Yeah.
So that's also changing the dynamic too. Like, for instance, some of those hard to find like Ninja Turtle figures, like Scratch. For a lot of people who collect vintage Ninja Turtles, that's their Holy Grail, because it was like one of the last figures in the line. Not many people bought it. So that's turned that into a Grail item.
But you can buy the new, much better version.
Yeah, but you
Super
can get the
7.
Super 7 one now.
Well, I feel like the term Grail is kind of used in the same way people say finding something in the wild. If you go to a con, you go to a specific toy shop like Second Chance, Steel Collectibles, and you find something there, that's not finding it in the wild. That's like going to the zoo and saying you found a tiger in the wild.
And shout out to Second Chance Toys and Steel Collectibles here in North Georgia.
That's not in the wild. The wild is actually finding it for retail at a normal box store. So I think that's kind of the same thing with Grail. People sort of interchangeably, and I'm not trying to gatekeep those terminologies. You can use it however you want to, but
I think it's like anything. Like, once you get into something, like when you get in the know in wrestling, like terminologies that are commonplace now, like mark.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of the wrestling terminology is carny talk.
Yeah, kayfabe, heel, babyface, heat, shoot, work.
Everybody knows what those are now, especially those people who love wrestling. So just in the way that people come into the collecting community, now they're learning those terminologies.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I think, yeah, that's a good call.
Especially if somebody's new to collecting, maybe, they haven't been collecting for 30 plus years like we have, so they don't have an old Grail, or they don't have a...
That's why I think it's so interplaceable. And it kind of goes back to saying it's just the way that it defines how people collect. That's where the definition meaning stems from for them, because each of us in technicality have a common meaning for it, but at the same time there's always those discrepancies that makes it uniquely different to us. Like, for instance, right now, if I were to say what is a Grail item for me, I'd love to get some Black Star figures.
That'd be cool.
But those cost a lot.
Yeah.
So I probably won't. Or Brave Star. I'd love to get some Brave Star stuff, but it's the same.
We saw some Brave Star figures in the box at Joe Fest, and they were $350 a piece.
Well, now Ramen Toys is making
a
Brave Star figure. So again, it goes into, now I can get like the modern Brave Star figure for like a greatly reduced from the vintage price. So now, is that going to keep it a Grail? Probably not, because the availability and of what I want. Now, if I was just sticking to, no, I want specifically the vintage figures, that may be a different story.
I had to reset the camera here because it automatically turned off. But yeah, just whatever like the Victory Leo is. But I guess with HasLab, it's easier to realize. And again, hindsight's 2020. I didn't think about this 2 years ago in the height of the pandemic with the Sentinel. But maybe because knowing what I knew now, or knowing now what I didn't know then, that's why I did back the Star Saber figure, because I saw that the Sentinel was just skyrocketing in price. So
is half the battle.
Oh, G.I. Joe.
Pork sandwiches.
Body massage.
Smelled good though. But you were about to say something, Richard?
Well, and I mean, it's in the same way that, like the HasLab Proton Pack was like the big thing for me.
Yeah.
Which I'm already saving money to buy another one when it comes out to the second market.
Fair.
Just because I want one in the 1980s and one in the Afterlife model.
Okay.
Because you can do both.
Either or. Yeah.
So I'm like, so I'm preparing for that $700 hit.
Yeah. Ugh.
But it may not be as bad though, because there's not as much of a hype on Ghostbusters collectibles. So
That's true.
I mean, it'll definitely be an uptick from what they pay, but it may not be these huge, 200%
markups.
Yeah.
I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all I had. Did anybody want to add anything to the Grail conversation?
Well, and at the end of the day, we talk about affording things and budgeting. It's just plastic.
Yeah, true. The real Holy Grail was the friendships we made along the way.
That's right.
What may be your Grail today may be in your collection tomorrow, is what I'm saying.
Fair.
Right. Especially if you win the lottery.
Yeah.
Then nothing's a Grail.
Yeah. What about you watching in YouTube land there? What is a Grail item to you? How would you describe what a Grail item is? And also in the context of your collection, what is a Grail item that you are looking for? Go ahead and leave your comments and answers down below. I want to read them. I want to see what you got. Show me what you got. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, do all the things, share the video. I would greatly appreciate it. We're sitting at about 544 subscriptions or subs right now on the channel, and I'm trying to get this bad boy up to 1K. So please share with your friends and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Stay spooky.